They said the cruiser looked like a tooth lost in a dark mouth, white paint swallowed by pines, headlights dead, the radio still whispering static like a secret. Near dawn, a hunter found it, fog crawling low as breath over glass. In the driver's seat sat Detective Eli Mercer, hands folded neatly, chin tilted toward the window. His eyes were half-lidded, and on his face, God help them, was a small, fixed smile. Before we begin, subscribe for more dark, true crime stories. Eli Mercer was Briar Hollow's backbone, part law, part myth. Tall, lean, always in the same weathered jacket, mug stained brown from years of black coffee. A man who talked little, worked steady, and believed every lie could be beaten if you just kept digging. He'd put away wife beaters and meth cooks, helped widows change flat tires, and carried an extra pair of socks in his glove box, because no one thinks straight with cold feet. So when they found him dead, smiling in his own cruiser down a dirt road no GPS dared name, something in Briar Hollow cracked. Sheriff Tom Gibbons stood outside the tape, jaw tight, circling the car like he could force the scene to confess. Deputy Rae Hollis moved slow, careful. The door was locked from the inside. Windows rolled up. No bruises, no blood, no struggle. The keys were in the cup holder, heater set to low, the dash clock frozen at 3:18 a.m. When they zipped the body bag, the sound rasped like a match being struck. Ray's stomach turned. She'd worked under Eli 5 years, he'd trained her to notice what people hide in plain sight. She caught herself looking at his mouth. That smile wasn't big or foolish, it was private, like he'd heard a joke only he understood. Could be a seizure, an EMT said. Sheriff Gibbons grunted, eyes fixed on the trees. Fog hung in soft curtains, owls blinking from the branches. Could be, he said. But it ain't. The autopsy came back clean, no trauma, no drugs, no alcohol. Only faint redness around the eyes, like he'd cried or caught a cold wind. His watch still ticked. In the evidence tray, money clip, 2 diner receipts, a Polaroid of a forest creek, and his leather notebook, pages filled with tiny, exact handwriting. Lists of plates, names, and one phrase written twice, no one meets there by accident. The page after was torn clean out. In Briar Hollow, gossip was faster than truth. Folks said Eli had been chasing something off the record, an informant who didn't want to be written down. They said he'd stopped showing at Ruby's Diner, switched to Lonnie's truck stop out on Route 9, and had been seen near Miriam Keene's abandoned property, the one with the collapsed barn and the well that never echoed back. Ray and the sheriff mapped every road he'd driven, walked the woods where the cars sat, reading tracks, deer, raccoon, coyote, and their own boots. Somewhere between those trees, a story had played out in silence. Then came the trail camera. A hunter had mounted it to catch deer, instead, it caught headlights. The time stamp read 2:57 a.m., Eli's cruiser parking at a slant. 2 frames later, a faint second set of lights deeper in the woods. Then a figure, lean, hooded, standing beside Eli's window. 3 frames, then gone. The next showed only fog. Sheriff Gibbons swore softly. Somebody met him. Or followed him, Ray said. Same damn thing around here. Eli's past looked clean from far away, but up close it frayed. A divorce. 2 grown kids who'd stopped calling. A mother in assisted living who only remembered him on good days. An old fight behind Miller's Hardware with Caleb Dorsey, a local trucking boss with more muscle than sense. Eli had been sniffing around Caleb's routes, too many trucks, not enough manifests. Men who left on hauls and never came back. Then there was the boy in the ditch, 5 years ago, case cold as ice. Eli used to park near that spot sometimes, engine off, just listening. Some things don't rest, he'd told Ray once. They wait. Ray took his notebook home. Under her kitchen light, she found a scrap of map taped to the back, a red X by an old Forest Service gate near Sawmill Hollow. She knew the place, kids used to sneak there to drink. That night, fog stitched low over the road, she found fresh tire tracks near the gate, a chain recently cut. By an old stump, half buried in mud, she found a torn note fragment. No one meets there by accident. Ask about the Creek Road drop. The rest had bled away. At the station, the sheriff made a list in block letters. Caleb Dorsey, routes. Miller's boy, fight. Miriam Keene, well/gate. Lonnie's, last coffee. Trail cam, second lights. Then he wrote, why the smile? Rae remembered Eli saying people die how they live, some go loud, some soft, some bargaining. Maybe the smile was a message. Or a warning. She studied the trail cam still again and saw, faintly, what looked like a third light, higher up, as if from a truck idling behind the trees. That evening, Briar Hollow filled in the blanks like it always did. They said Eli had a secret lover, that he'd found God, that he'd solved something too big to survive. None of it felt right. Rae drove Creek Road, headlights slicing mist, until she found a patch of mud marked with wide tire tracks, checkerboard tread, not from any pickup she knew. She measured the distance, sent the data to a friend at State Patrol who owed her a favor. Passing Caleb Dorsey's yard, she saw his rigs idling, floodlights cutting the dark. Men moved around them, hauling cables. Caleb met her eyes and smiled, thin, knowing. She didn't stop. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed. State Patrol confirmed the tread matched a box truck with a lift gate, the kind used when you didn't want to unload where folks could see. She sat up in bed, heart pounding, and looked at Eli's torn notebook page on the table. No one meets there by accident. The words hummed in her chest like the last echo of a voice that still wanted to be heard. She stared into the dark, the image of that fixed smile refusing to fade. Maybe it wasn't peace. Maybe it was the only clue he had time left to give. 3 days after the autopsy came back, the rain started again, thin and endless, soaking the roads until the lines disappeared. Deputy Rae Hollis hadn't slept. She'd gone through every inch of Eli's notes, every photograph, every scrap of writing, and still the same sentence kept echoing, no one meets there by accident. By dawn, she drove back out toward Sawmill Hollow, to the gate marked by that red X. The woods felt different now, emptier somehow, like the trees were waiting for her. Her boots sank into mud as she followed the ruts deeper into the clearing. Near the stump where she'd found the note, something new glinted through the wet leaves. She crouched. It was a key ring, Eli's, with his badge number etched into the metal. One key was missing. Back at the station, Sheriff Gibbons leaned over the evidence table, cigarette burning between his fingers. You think he dropped it? Rae shook her head. No. Someone wanted us to find it. The sheriff frowned. You think Dorsey's behind this? He's in it, Rae said, but not alone. By noon, she had a warrant. She and Gibbons rolled out to Caleb Dorsey's trucking yard, engines rumbling like thunder through the wet air. Caleb stood by a box truck, wiping grease from his hands, calm as a preacher at confession. Afternoon, deputy, he said. Rae's eyes flicked to the truck's tires. Checkerboard pattern. Still damp. We need to look inside, she said. Caleb chuckled, tossing the rag onto a crate. You got a warrant for that? She handed it to him. His grin slipped. They rolled open the back gate. The smell hit first, rust, oil, and something sweet that didn't belong. Inside were empty drums, stained dark at the base. One still had a smear of fresh mud near the lip. Gibbons ran a flashlight over the floor. Jesus, he muttered. Rae saw it then, a handprint, faint but visible, smudged against the metal. The ridges were clear. Too small to be Eli's. They bagged samples, called it in, and left as Caleb watched from the doorway, jaw twitching. The prints came back that night. They belonged to Hector Ruiz, a driver who'd vanished 3 weeks earlier on a short haul to Tennessee. No missing persons report, no family in town. Just gone. Rae leaned against her desk, piecing it together. Eli had been tracking Dorsey's trucks, routes that went out full and came back lighter, manifests missing pages. There were rumors of waste disposal, illegal shipments buried off the books in the national forest. Hector must have known. Maybe he tried to talk. Maybe Eli had met him at that gate. But there was something else, Eli's smile. It nagged at her. It wasn't peace. It was defiance. She replayed the trailcam footage again, frame by frame. The second lights, Dorsey's truck. The third, higher set, another vehicle, maybe law enforcement. A fourth, brief and dim, flashing once in the dark. Not a headlight. A camera flash. Eli had been documenting something. Next morning, Rae went to Eli's house. The place was neat but lifeless, as if he'd stopped living there long before he died. On his desk was a half-empty coffee cup and an unplugged laptop. She turned it on, password protected. But taped to the underside of the desk was a slip of paper with a string of numbers. Coordinates. She entered them into her phone, a spot along Creek Road, less than a mile from where she'd found the tire tracks. The coordinates led to a small culvert under the bridge. The rainwater hissed through like a whisper. She crouched low, flashlight cutting through the runoff, and there it was, a weatherproof camera, wedged between two rocks, half buried in mud. Back at the station, the drive revealed 23 photos. Most showed trees, headlights, and empty road. But in the last few, Eli's cruiser sat at the gate, same timestamp, 3:18 a.m., and behind it, a box truck with Dorsey's logo faint on the side. In the corner of one frame stood Eli, holding his phone up, light catching his face. He was smiling, just like when they found him. But there was something else. In the reflection of his window, faint and distorted, was another man's face, watching him from the dark. They arrested Caleb Dorsey that night. When confronted with the photos, he didn't deny much. Said he'd met Eli at the gate, to talk things out. Claimed Eli pulled a gun first. Claimed it was an accident. But there were no gunpowder burns on Eli's hands. Rae sat across from him in the interrogation room, voice low. You cleaned it up. You locked the car. You left him smiling. Dorsey sneered. He smiled 'cause he knew it was over. You ever seen a man accept it? She stared at him. Or maybe he smiled because he knew he got you on camera. The color drained from Dorsey's face. What camera? She slid the photo across the table. His reflection was right there, half caught by Eli's window, hands mid-motion. The moment guilt took a shape. Caleb's breathing hitched. He leaned back, eyes darting to the door. He wasn't supposed to, he started, but the rest came out broken. He wouldn't stop digging. He confessed before dawn, voice flat. They'd been dumping waste barrels into old wells across the forest, payoffs, bribes, silence. Hector found out. Eli found Hector. Dorsey met him that night, thought he could scare him off. He said Eli didn't fight back. Just stared at him and said, you can bury truth, but it don't stay down. Then he smiled. The trial was quick. Caleb Dorsey got life without parole. The company that paid him folded before the verdict. Locals said it was justice, but justice never quite feels like enough. When it was over, Rae drove back to the woods. The cruiser was gone, but the tire ruts were still there, soft with new grass. The air smelled like rain and rust. She stood by the stump and thought of Eli Mercer, the man who died with a secret he'd already exposed. Sometimes she wondered if that smile was peace after all, not because he was gone, but because he'd made sure the truth couldn't die with him. She left her badge on the stump and walked back to her car. The forest was quiet, but behind her, for just a second, she swore she heard the faint click of a camera shutter. The kind that only goes off when someone finally gets what they came for. What do you think? Did Eli Mercer find peace, or did the truth find him first? Subscribe for more dark, crime stories inspired by real-life shadows.